you guys for being so patient. My name's Jenelle Riley. I'm so thrilled to welcome you to this Q&A with one of the best reviewed and just best movies of the year, BlackKklansman. Please join me in welcoming the artist who brought this film to life. I want to start with an actor you've seen on that 70s show and in films like War Machine and Truth. He's a SAG Award winner for his work in Traffic. Please welcome Topher Grace. Anyone you want. An actor you probably know from Ballers. He is having an incredible year this year between the films Monsters and Men and Old Man and the Gun. Please welcome John David Washington. We have the gentleman upon whose memoir this movie is based. He was the first African-American police officer and detective at the Colorado Springs Police Department. Please welcome Ron Stallworth. Well, I feel bad for anyone having to follow that, but our last guest just arrived. However, I have no doubt you'll be just as excited. He is a 3-time Emmy Award nominee. He's been seen in everything from Star Wars to Patterson. He's also, in my opinion, the best Saturday Night Live host ever. He will teach us how to crush our enemies. Please welcome Adam Driver. Yeah, one more. Thank you guys so much for being here. Congratulations on such a wonderful film. This is actually an audience of SAG actors, so I always like to start by asking the actors, how did you get your SAG card? What was the job that brought that piece of paper?
What's important to remember is I hosted Saturday Night Live too, so what was that all about? Yeah.
But not within the last month.
That's right. I'm just kidding.
You also didn't beat a bird to death on the ground.
I was not on the show. I was very, very lucky. All my actor friends hate when I tell this story, but I was in a school play because I had a tennis injury, so I'd never really had a lead in a school play, and then I got one, and really luckily, insanely luckily, the girl who did the sets, her parents were producers, and then when I came to school out here at USC, asked me to come audition for that 70s show.
That was your first job?
It was my first audition, yeah. But I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I hate telling this in front of actors.
Wow.
Come on, where are you? Come on. Yeah, thank you. But it's one of the reasons it's so important for me to work so hard and work in movies like this, because I wanted to earn it kind of retroactively.
Wow, that's amazing, actually.
Actually, I'll tell you, because we're all actors, they said bring a picture and resume to the audition. And I said, wait, what do you mean? Like, what does that even mean? And they said, it's like a picture of you and your resume. I said, all right. So it was like I went to the audition, it was a picture of me and my friends at Six Flags. And the resume was like Dunkin' Donuts and Suncoast Video. And all this weird.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Adam?
I think it was a TV show called The Unusuals. I think that's
with Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
I remember that show. I really liked it. Mm-hmm. That had a great cast.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah. It was. Jeremy Renner, Amber Tamblyn.
And Harold Perrineau, is that right? Maybe not.
I don't know.
Sorry, I'll stop myself on ahead. JD?
It was Ballers. It was Ballers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was like my first audition. I was coming off of Achilles tendon surgery, so I was on crutches, on pain pills. So I was really relaxed. I just let it all go in the room. I don't recommend it, but 10 auditions later, I got the part, and I earned it.
Wait, so both of you, your very first audition, you booked it and got big TV shows.
This is the wrong room. I'm so sorry.
I was told no many times after that, though. So.
Okay.
I was rejected all through high school just by girls, so if that helps. I served more rejection than anyone's had in Hollywood.
So I want to start at the beginning with BlackKklansman because, Ron, your story is obviously so audacious. While it was happening, did you have any idea it would make such a great story? Because you waited until 2014 to publish your book.
No, I had no idea. I waited till 2013 to write it. When the investigation ended, I was basically told, don't talk to anybody, don't destroy the files. And I argued with my chief over that as vigorously as I could. And when he was adamant about it, I saluted, went about tearing a report here, a report there up. And when my sergeant wasn't looking, I walked out of the office with both notebooks in my hand. I carried them home, and they sat for 30 some odd years. And one day I pulled them out in 2013. I pulled them out March to be exact, and put pen to paper. 9 months later, the book came out.
Was there something that sort of spurred that on, or it just felt like the time, or you just happened to sort of be looking through old boxes?
Nothing spurred it on. I just felt like writing and decided to tell the story. I knew the story was unique from the very beginning, way back in '78. Who would believe a black cop would pull a crazy stunt like this? But because I was ordered not to talk to anybody, I didn't. And when this investigation ended, I moved on to another one. So 2013, I just decided, what the hell, and started writing.
Did you ever hear from your superior officer who told you to burn everything?
That was the chief.
The chief, okay.
No, I left the department a year after this investigation and continued my career over 3 more states and never talked to the chief again. He found out recently about the movie and about
I bet he did!
A reporter doing a story on me contacted him for background information, and the chief said he vaguely remembered this investigation. He said he did not remember giving me that order, but he couldn't deny that he did either. And the chief said he would like to read the book, so I sent him an autographed copy, and he wished me well.
Oh, wow. And for the rest of you, when the script found its way to you, or you heard about the project, what was your reaction? Because, JD, I was just listening to an interview today where I heard you say you weren't even sure this was a true story.
Yeah. I thought this was more of a play on the Chappelle skit. You know, the black white supremacist, right? What was his name? Bigsby, something? Right. So I thought it was, which is still Spike leading the charge. I'm like, I'm still down with it. I can do it, But once I found out it was a true story, I mean, I was ready to go. Where do I sign up? For sure.
And did Spike come to you directly? Because I don't know. I know you've known him a long time, but have you really spoken to him in depth about working together before?
Nope. It was, I got a text message from him, and which is crazy because I don't hear from him like ever. So I called it. I was like, Spike, and he said, "Yo, I got a script for you. Ku Klux Klan member, black member, first African American police detective in Colorado Springs." I'm like, "What?" So he sends me the book. I read it, and I go berserk. I'm like, "Yo, I'm in." He's like, "Bet, see you this summer." Yeah, that was it.
Did he use any emojis?
Spike Lee? Yes. As he'd say.
Adam, what about for you?
Yeah, I read it and he called me. We talked about it. We met a couple times, and then that was it.
At what point did he tell you from the beginning it was a true story?
Yeah, I knew somehow from the beginning that it was a true story. In getting it to you, you kind of hear what it's about, and so I knew before I had read it. Yeah.
What appealed to you about the part, or was it all about wanting to work with Spike Lee?
No, it's initially about working with Spike, and then obviously if you like the part, that's good. Which I did. I liked the idea of someone who hasn't really had to confront whether or not his personal heritage is important. And for some people that is important, for some people it's not. And some people it takes a kind of like cataclysmic, dangerous event for them to even internalize it for themselves. And that idea I thought was really interesting. If you're bound by your genetics to, predetermined to behave a certain way, or you can, circumvent that and do your own thing, or you're not really thinking about it and suddenly you find a pride in knowing that you're part of a community that before you had no interest in. And sometimes that's empowering for people, and sometimes they would rather do their own thing. And I think that Spike is good about asking that question but never coming up with an answer. And also just the technical part of being a police officer. If you can do your job almost emotionless as a kind of like a coping mechanism to self-preserve. That like I don't need to, I'm distant from what it is my job, so I can kind of maintain doing it. I don't internalize it. But then at the same time, how can you not say the things that you have to say and not internalize it? And maybe that actually makes you, even with acting, maybe it actually makes you better at your job. That you have a job and you're like, I can't focus on anything other than this job. I'm going to put everything else in life on hold. But sometimes the life part actually makes you better at your job because you're not. I don't know. You're living life and having experience, and inevitably it informs what you're doing.
Do you think your experience as a Marine kind of helped you play an officer, and sort of that closed off part that you have to take?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe in some way subconsciously. But the biggest part about being in the military and being an actor just makes so much sense to me. Actually, the crossover is obvious, in that it's like a group effort trying to tell a story that's bigger than any one person, and you have a role, and you have to know your role within a team or a unit, and people are relying on you to do your job, and if you don't do your job, then they can't do their job, and it takes the pressure off you as an actor because it keeps it very much a communal thing. You can't act in a vacuum. Someone has to watch it and film it, and not all, those people don't get the credit as much. But I'm very aware of the collaborative effort that's going on. I can directly link that to being in the military.
Now that, yeah. I was going to say.
You're military? Oh, yeah.
Now that you say it, it sounds obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me, and actually that's brilliant.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't know how brilliant it is. It makes...
Very brilliant.
It makes... I'll take it, sure.
Take the compliment.
Yeah. It just makes sense, the communal part of doing anything.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Topher, for you had kind of an unusual situation that you had to endure what must have been a rough audition. Yeah,
the audition was... I'd read the script and they said, it's not like something you've done before, so you're going to have to go read for Spike. And I said, absolutely. It's on, us as actors. If people can't see it, you have to make them see it. So the night before, I was sitting in my office and I was trying to read some of the lines, and I was alone. My wife had gone to sleep, and I still couldn't say some of the words. It was just, or I was swallowing them, and I thought, I have to not only be not afraid to say them, this guy kind of relishes saying some of these words. So the next day when I went to meet with Spike, I had a little speech prepared where I said, this might be annoying to you, but I'm really uncomfortable with this. And I always wondered, I'd watch like Django Unchained or something, I'd think like, how does that work on set? Like, yeah, when they yell cut. And by the way, the answer is, it's awkward and terrible at times. But it's why you have to work with a great director like Spike. I just met him, and I said, this is, I'm so uncomfortable with some of this. And he went to work making me feel comfortable. Wow. Like after 5 minutes, I felt so, first, you're going to be in a Spike Lee joint, so that like makes you feel safe. But then also just him personally brought me to a place where I could then give him a reading that he could then cast me. So I'm really grateful to him for that.
I actually want to talk about Spike because he is a legendary director, but he's so good with actors. And I'm curious, what is it like working with him? Is he super hands-on, or does he sort of like stand back and let you do your thing, and sort of be available for you?
It's different for different people who have different roles.
I guess I really enjoyed the point of entry into the story. It was a lot of rehearsal, a lot of communication, talking, discussing the plot, the characters. He was giving us such freedom to create and just try to find things organically that was unfamiliar territory for me. So this sort of fertile territory that we were just sort of planting on was just fun to be able to do and explore because of the possibilities with this crazy, outrageous story that we were telling. So this legend yelling cut in action, knowing that he picked the right people, because I feel like that's where his confidence comes from, with these actors. He knows he picks the right people, so he trusts the people to do what they do. And, so with that, knowing that, I have sort of a mindless approach. I can just literally like listen to my partners and trust that we'll find the way.
And I mean, Adam, you've worked with some of the most legendary directors. You worked with Martin Scorsese and the Coen brothers, and now Spike. What is that like? I mean, the best directors, what do you find they have in common?
I think, well, they're all very different. What they have in common, I think, is they're very specific of the story that they're trying to tell. How they get about it is completely different. I mean, I don't really know how Spike compares. He's someone who is. There's definitely no ego on set, and there's no. He's very enthusiastic and is really encouraging of his actors to follow impulses. He likes to move very fast and really believes in momentum on set. Doesn't like things to sag, because there's not like a bunch of actors. And I feel this with Soderbergh too. He's someone who likes to do one or two takes, and no one goes to their trailer. There's no separation of like, okay, now we're here, now we're gonna go back to our trailer and disconnect or do whatever, and then come back and bring whatever was going on there and blow a couple takes because we're still, I had an argument with, where boyfriend, girlfriend, or something. He likes to keep everybody there in the momentum on set and encourage you to follow your impulses. And what I think is unique about Spike's movies is there's always the linear story. There's what's written on the page, and then there's always this abstract thing that's going on, like in this Alec Baldwin at the very beginning, where you're like, on the page it doesn't make sense because it wasn't there, but Spike is a very good collage artist on the day of pulling things of like, even if it doesn't make logical sense, there's like an emotional truth about it that works and to completely makes sense. There is something absurd about it that just works. Or the dance sequence, it's not like, there's just something about movement or the music that he picks that I feel make his movies unpredictable and unique.
I was so curious about that opening scene, so that was in the script.
No,
it wasn't.
Not like that. No, that's totally something that Spike found on the day. That was like, whatever's happening, let's like that's what it is. I feel it, and you can't tell him he's wrong, because he's definitely following his instincts, and he lives by that example. So it's hard to show up as an actor and be like, I'm not,
Yeah. I feel like I should point out Topher also worked with Steven Soderbergh, since I already showed some favoritism earlier. You were great on Saturday Night Live.
Which one did you like more?
You won a SAG award for yours. So.
SAG award.
There you go. And Ron, I can't imagine a better filmmaker to tell your story. How did you sort of find out it was going to be Spike, and what was your reaction?
Well, the story.
Sorry.
The story went through several iterations before ending up with what you all saw tonight. It all began in 2014. You've heard of the Maze Runner movies?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound so excited. I love those movies.
Gotham actually owned the rights to this story. They had an 18-month option on it, with an understanding that within 12 months they had to show movement towards actually getting developed into a film. If not, I got my rights back. Guess what they didn't do? So I got my rights back after a year, went through another group They were talking about taking it to Lionsgate, but I emphasized the word talking because it didn't go anywhere. And sat on it for a little longer, and then I was approached by these two Jewish gentlemen, Charlie Wachtel and David Rabinowitz. And they said, does anyone own the option to your movie, your story? I said, no. They said, we'd like to write a screenplay for it. I said, what have you done? They said, nothing. I said, okay. They had done a little bit of independent TV, but that was it. So then I said, what is your take on my story? They said, we would like to make the Flip character Jewish. And I said, why? He said, well, we're Jewish, and we think that would add tension to the undercover scenes when he's with the Klans people. And I thought about it, I said, you know, that's a good idea. I said, run with it. So they ran with it, they wrote a screenplay. It went through 5 versions before I approved the final one. One version, they had me, my character, John David, they had him in a bedroom scene with Patrice. Now you gotta keep in mind, I'm reading it as Ron Stallworth. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, this just doesn't work. So I called them back and I said, take that scene out, I don't like it. They said, well, you gotta have a love interest in there. I said, nah, I'm a cop. I've seen lots of cop movies where the love interest is a dog. Give me a German Shepherd dog. They said, it's not gonna work. I said, try it. So they wrote a revised version of the script with a dog, a German Shepherd dog. I'm reading the script, and even I, without any knowledge of the business, recognize this ain't gonna work. So I called them up, I said, put the love scene back in there, and they did, and I approved the 5th version of it, and I gave them permission to take it, move it forward. They contacted Sean Reddick at QC Entertainment. Charlie knew Sean. He actually cornered Sean in an elevator. The doors closed, that's when he produced the script, and the old elevator trick. And Sean read it, he liked it. He took it to Jordan. Jordan liked it, took it to Spike, and you saw what the end result was.
Wow. That's literally an elevator pitch. That's amazing.
That's exactly what it was.
And from what I understand, Spike wanted to keep you guys apart until, you didn't meet till the table read?
Yeah, that's correct. We didn't.
What was his, I mean, I sort of get the logic, but what did he tell you was the reason for not wanting you to meet?
To this day, I don't know. I don't know, but I'm glad it happened the way it did. You know, There was something about meeting him, you know, doing my research, obviously, but meeting him on the day that we all got together and read his story back to him, you know, and he told us the whole story first, and as he told us, he passed around his membership card.
You mean
the actual card? Yeah,
Klan card?
The Klan card. I believe he keeps. He said he keeps it on him at all times. So.
Do you have it here? You guys can get out your SAG cards in the meantime. Oh my God, you signed the back. And oh my God, David Duke endorsed it. That's amazing.
Yeah, David signed it. In the film, he said that he would process it personally, and he actually did. Because I called him up when I didn't get the card. I called him up because I was told I couldn't participate in any cross burnings.
I'm sorry, it's not funny, but it's funny.
So I called him up directly and asked him where my membership card was because I wanted to go burn a cross. And he told me they had a snafu, administrative snafu at the office. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, I'll personally process this and put it in the mail to you. That fool made this card and sent it to me.
Wow.
And I also have a certificate of membership certifying me as a Knight of the Ku Klux Klan, signed by David Duke.
And I heard somewhere, I guess you can't find it, you have the photo of you and David Duke.
Lost that photo years ago. But there are enough people that I worked with who saw the photo, called me a crazy SOB as a result of how I was taken. It's perfectly captured in the movie, by the way.
Really?
It pretty much happened the way John David did it. And the only thing that was different is after he snatched the photo out of Duke's hand, or out of Flip's hand, you saw Duke and John David as me jawing back and forth to one another. That didn't happen. That part did not happen. What happened was I grabbed the photo and Duke tried to snatch it out of my hand, and I told him, if you touch me, I will arrest you for assault on a police officer. It's worth 5 years in prison. Don't do it. And I did wave my finger. I said, don't do it. And he stood there silent and glared at me. Most intense look of hatred I think I've ever experienced. And his followers were in the room, some with their wives or girlfriends, and they were standing there in stunned silence because their leader had just been reduced by someone they considered to be an ape. And we just stood there. It seemed like forever. It was probably no more than 5 seconds. And Duke finally turned around, sauntered over to his group, and I stood there, went to the other side of the room and listened to him give a speech on white supremacy and superiority, and I had the biggest smirk on my face because we had just destroyed him psychologically.
Amazing, amazing. I'm like kind of looking at Topher angrily, like, yeah, he showed you, and I know it's not you.
Right, when we premiered the movie in Cannes, which I hadn't seen the movie yet, and you can imagine being in a film like this and seeing it for the first time, they do a thing where, and I wasn't prepared for this, they, when the film is done and the credits have rolled, first they broke into applause, it was amazing. But they also put your face up on the big screen. So there's a camera guy who's, so you're looking up, you're seeing yourself. There was like a 10-minute standing ovation. Spike's yelling like Brooklyn in the house. And, it was like amazing. And the camera panned to Adam, and there was this big close of Adam. People are cheering. Then the camera pans over to John David. People are throwing roses off the balcony and they couldn't believe it. Then it came to me and everything just kind of stopped for a second. It was like, then it went over to Laura and everyone started applauding again. And I thought, I think this is because I did a good job.
Exactly.
Maybe, I don't know.
Exactly. It's a compliment. I'm curious, was the table read the first time Adam and JD, you met each other?
Yeah.
The what? That was before it was.
So there was no kind of chemistry read or anything? It's because, Spike Lee is so clever. He sort of does this subversive take on the buddy cop movie, but there is that element of it, and I'm just a little surprised that no, I'm not, because he knows what he's doing. But did you want to meet, or? I know you did, because you're obsessed with him.
Yes, we are best friends, yes.
We're not best friends. No, it's on this side. We're very good friends.
We're best friends.
No, we're best friends.
Yeah.
No, we had time we had like 2 weeks before we started to go over, and we every day met then. So I don't know what more we need. No, but John is a great actor, and I feel like when you're doing the scenes, if obviously. I don't think you can do that with everyone, but we just felt comfortable immediately. There's like an immediate kind of respect for him that it just made it so pleasant. It's pleasant, such a mundane word, but it's true.
When he called you about the part, did he tell you who your sparring partner was going to be? Were you already
yeah, I said this last night. when I was talking to Spike about, he says John David Washington's going to play Ron Stallworth, and he's the truth. And I'm like, great.
I love that.
Yeah, the John is the truth.
But I mean, the chemistry I felt was with everybody, the whole entire cast. You know, those phone conversations, we actually were, what was this? The rooms were set up back to back.
Yeah, I've never had this on a film. Usually you film your part of the conversation one day. It might not even be the other actor reading it with you, and then the other actor does a different day. Spike built the sets back to back, and there was a camera in both rooms. So we were totally live on all those calls, yeah.
I want to talk about, since the movie's been out for a while now, I feel like we can afford to spoil it. Also, you guys just saw it, so what am I talking about? But I want to talk about the final scene.
And where did you see it?
There's a screen back there.
We all had opera glasses.
Yeah. The final scene incorporates real footage from the 2017 Charlottesville riots. When did you know that footage was going to be included, and what was it like the first time you saw that? You knew that this was a period piece and yet still a timely movie, but that really puts it right. People have to walk out of the theater and realize this is still happening.
I had no idea until Cannes.
You're kidding.
Yeah, so you can imagine the emotions anyway. It's hard for me to watch stuff I'm in anyway, and then let alone with a bunch of strangers. So like all those emotions happening, watching it with a whole bunch of people, and then bam, that ending happens, and it just I felt embarrassed for my country for sure.
Same with you guys. First time at Cannes.
Yeah.
When I went into ADR, Spike goes, "I'm going to show you the last reel." And he showed it to me, and it was amazing. And I thought, oh my God, I'm in this incredible film. But it wasn't until I saw the whole movie together that I understood what Spike is really doing. You need to see the whole front part of the film before you see that footage. And I got so emotional. You're so self-aware when you're watching a movie that you're in, but this is the first time watching a film that I got that emotional. It's something that I was in.
Did y'all notice too the song at the end in the credits?
Is it?
Prince?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I read the first script that they wrote for the movie. That scene was not in the first script, not at all. And when I did see the movie for the first time, it was very moving. Brought tears to my eyes to recognize that we just witnessed a murder, and to recognize the response that came on a national level to that murder. I had tears in my eyes. I was sitting in the back watching 21st Time, by the way.
That's right, today.
I've been on a book signing tour, and they do screenings sometimes, and my wife and I have seen the movie 20 times. Today made 21 for me, and it still brings a tear to my eye at that last scene. Okay, and I don't see how anyone who watches this movie cannot be moved to respond in like fashion. She didn't need to die. It didn't need to happen. So, Spike, to me, that scene, the inclusion of that scene is a testament to Spike's genius as a director. It really is.
I don't think I'm going to top that, so I want to thank you guys for being an amazing audience. I want to congratulate you guys on a funny, moving, really special movie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.